Hi everyone. So yesterday you learned how to find equivalent fractions, and we're going to use that knowledge that we learned yesterday to compare fractions today. And so go ahead and get your notebooks and title a blank page Comparing Fractions. You will be given two fractions today with different denominators, and you need to, step one, make both the fractions have the same denominator, because when the fractions have the same denominator, that's when we can compare them the easiest. So, step one, make fractions have the same denominator. So what's happening when you make the fractions have the same denominator is you are putting them in terms that they would both have the same amount of pieces, so then it's easier to compare. So after you have the same denominator on both of your fractions, how you compare them is you just look at the numerators. Whichever has the bigger numerator is the bigger number, is the bigger fraction. So that's step two. Step two, compare numerators. Alright, so you'll be using greater than, less than, or equal to compare the fractions. So if we look at our first example, say we have 3/5 and 5/10. And I want you to compare them. Tell me whether 3/5 is greater than, less than, or equal to 5/10. Well, our first step is to make our fractions have the same denominator. So today you will always only need to change one of your fractions. It's not always true, but it is true today. So in this case, if we want to have the same denominator, the easiest thing would probably be just to double this denominator to make it 10. So if we have 3/5 and we want to find an equivalent fraction with the denominator 10, what do we have to do to this denominator 5 to get it to be 10? And always think multiplication, not addition. So we had to multiply by 2. 5 times 2 is 10. So we learned yesterday is if we want an equivalent fraction, we do it to the denominator, we need to do that same thing to the numerator, and we'll have an equivalent fraction. So since we multiplied by 2 here for the denominator, we want to multiply the numerator also by 2. And 3 times 2 is 6. So 3/5 equals 6/10. Okay, so since 6/10 would be greater than 5/10, because we're going to compare the numerators, and 6 is greater than 5. So 6/10 is greater than 5/10, which means 3/5 is greater than 5/10, because 6/10 equals 3/5. So let's try another example. We're going to try several. Alright. So example 2 will be 5/8 and 3/4. Okay. So this time, if we want to do our step 1, make our fractions have the same denominator. We have 8 and 4. Well, if we double 4, we can get to 8. So the easiest thing to do would be to take our 3/4, and we want it to have a denominator of 8. And so what do we have to do to our 4 to get to 8 if we are multiplying? We have to again multiply by 2. because 4 times 2 is 8. And so if we do that to the denominator, if we want an equivalent fraction, we have to do that also to the numerator. So we're going to multiply that 3 by 2, and we get 6/8. So we're comparing 5/8 to 6/8, essentially. I replaced that 3/4 with 6/8, because 3/4 equals 6/8. So it says compare numerators. 5 is less than 6, so 5/8 is less than 6/8. And since 5/8 is less than 6/8, then 5/8 is less than 3/4, because 3/4 equals 6/8. All right, we're going to do another example. Example 3 is 5/7 compared to 15/21. Okay, first step, make fractions have the same denominator. We have 7, we have 21. What denominator can we use to make them both the same? We could technically use 7, but I think it'd probably be easier just to do 21. We're just comparing them. So, let's take our 5/7 and make it have a denominator of 21 so that they can have the same denominator. So then you think, okay, what did I multiply 7 by to get to 21? That would be 3. 7 times 3 is 21. We do that to the denominator. We need to do that to the numerator, so that's an equivalent fraction. So 5 times 3 would be 15. So 5/7 equals 15/21. So now comparing 15/21 to 15/21. And those are obviously equal to each other, which means that 5/7 and 15/21 are also equal to each other. They're equivalent fractions. All right, we're going to do one more. I'm going to have you try it on your own first. You're going to pause the video, work it out, and then unpause the video and see if you have the same answer. So let's do 2/3 compared to 9/12. Okay, so first step, make the fractions have the same denominator and then compare the numerators. Try that one on your own and then unpause the video and see if it matches what I'm going to work out. All right, so the first thing you want to do, make fractions have the same denominator. We have 3, we have 12. Well, I know that 12 is a multiple of 3, so I'm going to go with 12. I'm looking for a fraction that equals 2/3 that has a denominator of 12 to match that one. So to get from 3 to 12, I multiply by 4. So if I do that to the denominator, I want to do that to the numerator so that it's equivalent. And 2 times 4 is 8. So now I'm comparing 8/12 to 9/12. It says compare the numerator. So 8 is less than 9. And so that means 8/12 is less than 9/12. All right. And so that means 2/3 is less than 9/12 because 2/3 equals 8/12. All right. You guys have a tuber town to do today, so you're going to choose a tuber that you think is correct and show why you know they're correct. There's some models to fill out on the 3rd slide, and you're going to give a written explanation of why you think that tuber is correct.